Welcome to Grounds of Freedom. What can we get for you this morning?
It's Fred, Abe. My name is Fred. And I'll have my usual, a large house coffee with a shot of espresso.
Coming right up, Fred. That will be $3.
Hi there. I think I've seen you around before.
Yeah, I'm in here a lot.
Well, my name is Todd Avery.
I'm Fred. Fred Matson. Nice to meet you.
So, did you vote in the election today?
Not yet, but I will later this afternoon.
It is important to vote. Voting is the thing that makes us a free country.
It might be more accurate to say that the Constitution and Bill of Rights is what makes us a free country, but provisions for voting are included within them, and they play an important role.
Well, okay, but it is important to vote. Everyone should be required to vote, because that is how we protect our freedom.
I will agree with you that voting is important, but that won't necessarily protect our freedom. What is to stop us from voting away our freedoms?
Well, why would we do that?
In favor of security, short-term growth, a desire for conformity, fear of changes, there are lots of factors that could motivate people to vote away their own freedoms. What about voting away the freedoms of others? In a true direct democracy, what is to protect a minority view from being outlawed by the majority?
Well, what can be done to prevent that if we want people to be free?
Well, in the US, we actually have a republic. So leaders are elected by the people, but they are supposed to make governing decisions based on what they believe is right, regardless of popular opinion of the moment. And they work within the framework of the Constitution.
What is to prevent those leaders from making bad decisions?
In the short term, the checks and balances in the system, usually the courts. In the long term, voters should replace bad leaders.
How's that any better than direct democracy then?
Ideally, we should be electing people to positions of authority who we trust will be more informed on the issues. It doesn't always happen, but that is the ideal.
Okay, so shouldn't we still require everyone to vote so that we get the best possible elected leaders?
Well, first off, we should be careful requiring everyone to do anything, as it impedes freedom. We require everyone to pay taxes, but that has been determined by society to be necessary and worth the cost to our autonomy.
But didn't we just determine how important voting is?
We just determined how important it is to have good elected officials representing us when decisions are made. Will increasing the number of people voting improve the chances of good people being elected?
Why wouldn't it?
Well, just over half of the eligible voters turned out for the last election, about 55%.
Yeah, that is terrible. It hardly represents the entire population.
But why didn't the other 45% of voters cast their ballots?
Because they didn't have to. There's no penalty for not voting.
True, they didn't have to, but
The price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men.
that was from Plato. There is a penalty for not voting. It's that you don't get a voice in the governing process.
Well, yeah.
Why didn't the other 45% of voters cast their ballots?
Well, how should I know? There could be lots of different reasons.
All of which were more important priorities to them than voting.
But requiring voting would make it a higher priority for everyone.
You can require people to cast a ballot, but you can't force them to make an informed vote. If voting isn't important enough to these people for them to bother casting a ballot, what are the chances that they will invest the time to look further into who or what they are voting for?
Pretty unlikely, I guess.
So they will just vote for whatever name they recognize or whoever is affiliated with their preferred party, or even worse, just choose at random.
I suppose so.
Increased voter turnout won't lead to better leaders being elected unless voters actually study the people and positions available to them on the ballot.
Well, how do we get them to do that?
You can't force people to be free. They have to desire freedom in order to maintain their liberty. If it could be set up so that only people who care enough to study the issues and candidates would go to the trouble of voting, that would sift out the uninformed votes that are helping unqualified candidates win elections.
You mean like a poll tax?
No, because that would hinder poor people more than rich people. We just want to discourage uninformed and careless people from casting ballots. There used to be civics tests for eligibility to vote in the South, and while that is a good idea in theory, they were abused for racially discriminating purposes, showing that most governmental limits on voting have the potential of being abused for political purposes.
So what can we do instead, outside the government?
Impressing on people the value of their freedom is the only way to motivate them to take the time to cast informed and carefully considered ballots, and hold their representatives accountable for their decisions.
But how can we do that?
Well, I am reaching as many people as I possibly can with that message. You should too. Feel free to share what I have been telling you with everyone you know.